All right, yo, what's up, YouTube? Today we're gonna be talking about who the easiest and hardest characters are in Guilty Gear Strive to learn. And I just want to get a couple things out of the way just so we can rate these characters fairly. First, I think in order to determine how easy they are, this kind of applies to low and mid-level play, not, top 8 tournament level play. So I'm gonna say, like, how easy is a character to get to, let's say, the top floor of the rank system, which, you can do it after a couple hours of play as long as your win rate is high. It's kind of a good indicator of, how quick you can learn a character. The other thing is, like, I want this to be independent of balance changes. So, like, think of it like as the core of the character. Not Soul is broken, therefore he's easy. No, Soul is easy because his game plan is very straightforward and he has good tools for most situations. So I'm gonna try to get the easiest ones out of the way. I think people are not going to debate that Zato is probably the hardest character in the game to learn. A reason being is that you have basically another character to play, Eddie. He has a special meter that you have to use in order to do some of his moves. In order to control Eddie optimally, you need to use negative edging, which is very tough, especially for a new player, and some of the stuff you do need to negative edge. And not to mention, his game plan isn't very straightforward. You have to use different summons, and he has a lot of different options to play with, and he is pretty technical too. So I think it's really hard to debate him not being the hardest. All right, so easiest characters. I think there's a few that kind of strike off the top of my list. There's an obvious one by the system, Kai. I think he has the highest rating in the, he has the 5 stars for easiness, and he's there for a good reason, right? He has very long normals, very easy to use normals, very obvious game plan. He has a fireball, he has a DP, he's very well-rounded. And he has a couple just very strong tools that don't take much thought into using them, right? You have his kind of backflip move that gives you good pressure. You have stun edge, which is a low profile and combo ender sort of thing. Good fireball, good DP, good specials to throw out, just generally very easy character. After that, I think some of the other easiest characters, Ram, I think actually might have Kai beat. Let's be real. Ram only has 3 or 4 specials. Her gameplay is super easy. Literally, you're just like spamming jump slash, spamming stand slash. You get them to the corner after you hit them with normals, throw the swords in the corner, get the wall break and go back to neutral. I mean, she's really easy. You're kind of just like, it's a 1 or 2 button neutral game with her. Not to mention, she has her 214K, which is kind of like a scrub killer, right? It's a reactable overhead, but at the same time, a lot of people when you're climbing up the tower aren't going to be reacting to that. She has a really good super to get you out of jail for free, pretty much. One of the easiest characters, if not the easiest character in the game. A couple other really easy basic characters. Giovanna, I think, fits up there again. Kind of the same thing, very straightforward game plan. Only has 3 specials, I believe, and they're all useful. You could just kind of like block string and just do one of the 3 specials, and even if you just like randomly choose a special you do to end her block string, it's gonna work out in your favor most likely. So very good mobility. You can just kind of weave in and out, use her specials, use her normals, and she has decent mix, right? You just keep it very basic, go for something like a close normal, go for throw or low, and especially even at like a low mid level, you're gonna be able to hit that charge dust too, and you're gonna get some very easy mix up. I think she's one of the easiest characters to win with. Let me think. After that, I think Mei is definitely up there too. Mei, kind of the same idea. I don't think Mei is as easy as these 3, just because, again, she's a charge character, which I think charge characters are a little harder for new people to learn. But at the same time, her game plan is so basic. You just kind of spam dolphin and spam jump-ins and get the hit. And then you just keep spamming and jump-ins, get the hit. And then when they start to get conditioned to block, you go up for command grab. Very basic game plan, but also very effective. I do kind of knock off a couple points because she is charged. But other than that, yeah, you just kind of spam dolphin, spam jump normals. And not to mention, you just mix up the type of dolphin you're doing too. After that, I think there's a few contenders. I think Pot, I'm gonna put Pot and Soul. Maybe I put Mei here too, because there's what, 15 characters, so I can have 3 in each row. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm gonna say Pot is also easy, especially at low to mid level. Mega Fist is very tough to deal with unless you IB. Hammerfall, his charge forward special move, it's kind of hard to punish, and it's kind of hard to deal with in neutral. You can just kind of throw it out, especially if you have RC, it's now your turn, and unless the opponent is predicting it, or, unless you do it from full screen and they can react, it can be hard to deal with. People aren't going to be reaction blocking or jumping slide head. It's a very strong tool. I think his game plan is very basic. Spam specials until you get in, and then try to command grab them. And on defense, try to backdash and command grab. But I do think he's definitely harder than these 2 characters. Let's leave him here for now. I actually think Ino's here. I think Leo's here. I think Axel's here. Nagoriyuki is definitely hard. All right, let's talk about Nagoriyuki first. I'll leave these guys here for now. So Nagoriyuki, I'm for sure he's one of the hardest. You know, I think Nagoriyuki is actually better than people give him credit for. But he's very hard to learn because you have to manage your blood meter. And if you don't manage that properly, you just die. Literally, like popping blood rage is one of the worst things you can do with this character. And you lose about 50% health. Not to mention if you do it in a bad situation, you get punished and you can literally just die for it, right? And not to mention he has like a bunch of different options of how he wants to cancel his specials, and using the teleport gives him a lot of variety. He's one of the hardest characters for new people to pick up. All right, let's talk about the ones I think are in neutral. I think Leo actually could potentially go up here. I'm actually going to put Leo up here for now. I think Leo is pretty straightforward. Again, I kind of have to dock off points for being charged. And because he has a stance, I think he's definitely harder than Mei. But again, his game plan is very straightforward, right? You throw fireballs in neutral, try to get your way in through some of his tools like the run and some of his big normals. And then you just try to get a knockdown and go into stance. And some of his moves, especially like stance overhead, are pretty strong and hard for the opponent to deal with. Same thing at low level, just running through the opponent and then they have to block a cross up, I think is very hard for people to deal with as well. He gets a lot of easy wins that way. So because of his game plan being somewhat straightforward, even though he has a little more technical side because you have stance and you have charge, he's a gorilla and you can kind of make him work with that. Yeah, so let's talk about Axel and Ino. You know, Axel and Ino, I think are two of the more technical characters in the game, but when you're just picking them up, I don't think you need to use them to their fullest potential. I think Axel, you know, in general, like Arxis games, when you're playing a zoner, especially at high level, you have to learn the matchups in and out. And I think that makes a character like Axel very hard to learn at high level. But if we're talking about easy, like low to mid level, he's pretty easy because you just kind of spam your normals, you spam your Rensen, and a lot of people aren't going to know how to deal with it, or they're not going to be blocking full screen on wake up, and you can get a lot of free damage that way. No one's going to be reacting to your command grab, no one's going to be reacting to your overhead. You have a lot of easy ways to cheese wins with him, and I think because of that, he's going to be easy to pick up until you get a better feel for it, and then you can start to explore the technical nuances of this character. Because I do think he's one of the highest skill characters in the game, because you have to know like a lot of situational confirms, you have to know a lot of matchups, you have to, you know, TK bomber loops, and you have to compensate for some of his tools being reactable. But when you're low to mid level and you can just throw out command grab, or you could throw out 6HS, or you could throw out some of his other tools with not having to worry that much, I think he's really good and pretty easy to pick up. But again, he is charged and he does have like unconventional normals. I kind of have to take a little bit of points off of that. Ino, it's the same thing. I think Ino is actually really technical, and if you want to get into like very advanced offense, I think you need to invest a lot of time in this character to learn how to beat specific defensive options. But when you're just picking this character up, the fact that you can just like spam stroke the tree and literally just get to VIP, that's what I did last beta, I think just shows that this character has some very good tools that just kind of can carry the player. And some of those tools are gimmicks, like, you know, punishing the man grab. Noobs aren't going to know how to deal with that. Punishing your super, a lot of people aren't going to know how to deal with that either. And so it kind of gives you a little bit of a buffer as you're learning this character as well. But yeah, I mean, she does have some unconventional stuff like her hover dash, and again, opening people up who know how to deal with her mix-up can be a little tough, but I think just the strength of doing specials in neutral and people not knowing how to punish them is really good and will get you good results fast with this character. And she's obviously like, her execution's a lot easier than other games. Like, Ino's always had this conception of being like a really hard character, but this is Strive. This is not old Guilty Gear games. So I think Milia is either hard or hardest. I don't think she's as hard as these two. I think Anji belongs here. I think I'm gonna put it like this, right? All right, here's my explanations. You might be thinking Chipp and Milia are pretty similar characters, right? They're just very pixie-like characters. They have low health, they have high mix, they have high mobility. Well, I think Chipp has a lot of scrub killer tools, right? Like, he has this Rekka overhead string, he has Alpha Blade, he has the command grab that are all designed to test the opponent's reactions, but when you're at low to mid level, they're like practically guaranteed to hit. And you can use these tools to kind of carry you through easy and mid level experience with this game. Compared to Milia, where she doesn't really have anything to carry you. You kind of just have to play honest, and while she does have disgusting like set play, getting to that set play can be tough, and you have to know a lot of nuances about her set play. It's not as easy as, let's say, someone like Eno, or let's say someone like Chipp, where you just do a special move on their wake up. You have to actually know the setups, and that's going to take a lot of upfront investment in order to start getting your wins. Though I do think that Milia, once you put in the time with her, is really worth that investment. So Faust, I think it's kind of the same thing. You know, he has very long buttons. His game plan is pretty obvious, right? You throw out long buttons, you throw items, and you keep people out. So I think you got that going for you. I think items kind of start to play themselves, and a lot of people, especially at low mid levels, they're not going to know how to deal with that sort of thing. And so you can just kind of start throwing out items and start getting away with stuff, right? I think he has some tools to kind of, I don't want to say scrubby, but like you have teleports and other tools that are harder for newer players to deal with as well. But yeah, honestly, I think he could go down here because you do have to know a lot of things for his game plan, but I think neutral's fine. He's probably like on the lower end of neutral. And at Anji, he's honestly like, he could be neutral as well. The reason I have him down here is like, just as he currently is, it feels like his neutral is somewhat tough. His game plan is not obvious. You have to know when to parry stuff, and I think that can be kind of tricky. Fujin's obviously pretty good, and you can cancel no Fujin, you can get a mix, and I think that kind of carries people through low to mid level. Just kind of use your gorilla nature and then do Fujin and block. Actually, you know what? I'm kind of convincing myself he's neutral. I mean, just the fact that his neutral is not obvious, but at the same time, once you get in, I think you just start doing Fujin, you start doing Anji things. You can kind of start to autopilot your game from there. And I think he has some stuff that easy to deal with, like the counter. And he has some other things in neutral, like, you know, his 5P is really good. So you have some buttons you can spam in neutral too. So yeah, I think he either falls in neutral or hard, but he's definitely not the most obvious character to pick up. All right, now let's read chat and see how bad you guys are roasting me. That's true. Chipp, you do have to play fast, which is definitely why he's not an easy. I feel like Chipp has some of the most scrub killer tools in the game, but because you have to play so fast with him and his executions like that, I do think that's why he has to be on the lower end. Yeah, hardest and hard tier, easy. Yeah, I agree. I think Milia's hard. Yeah, Chipp neutral felt way better. I agree, Althea. I'm doing LK propaganda. I just think like Milia's game plan is not very obvious. I actually tried to pick her up in the beta, and I found it to be pretty hard. I also think it's harder for new players to work out what Faust's game plan actually is. To me, like, I had a hard time describing it, which is why I think I have him like bottom 5 in this. Even though he's like neutral, I think characters in this game are pretty easy to figure out, so it's kind of hard to say. Damn, everyone's not hating my characters. Yeah, I do think most characters in this game are pretty easy, which is probably why I have them here. Soul should be monkey tier. You realize easiest and easy there. This is like super monkey and then monkey tier. It's basically 2 monkey tiers. Whoever your main is the hardest to learn, right? That's usually how it works. I made a poll. You guys decide. Is Faust hard? All right, Faust is not hard. It's been decided. All right, guys, so I hope that makes sense. I hope this makes your character decision a little bit easier. I do want to say a couple things. One, I think honestly this game's easy enough that you can pretty much pick anyone up you want, especially if it's going to be your favorite character. Don't let Zato being hard prevent you from picking it up. I would say if you're going to pick up someone the hard and hardest and you're completely new to fighting games, I would say, you know, try to pick up, you know, along with the character on the hard end, try to pick up like an easier character too, just so you can kind of have compare and contrast and, you know, not get discouraged with the game, because if you are playing these characters at the bottom, game's going to take a little bit longer to learn, right? Which is not nothing wrong, and I think, you know, the game keeps getting rebalanced. I think sticking with who you like is ultimately a pretty good strategy, right? Yeah, with that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you guys want to see more Guilty Gear content, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.